land took place in Judea, Samaria. Judea, Samaria is under the created umbrella of the title of West Bank. So when you hear the word West Bank, just think and begin to say it's Judea, Samaria. It's
California.
It's the biblical heartland. It is the biblical
From Mexico
heartland.
now. It's $100.
So I should have warned you. Judea, Samaria is 80% of our Bible, and I think of it and I refer to it as the biblical heartland. And our guides will clarify some of the points that Pastor Bill was mentioning about the territories. People are needing to understand.
Yeah, we did do it on
And
the
settlements
buses today.
and
But
a
like,
little bit,
while
yeah,
we're
but
right
settlements
here-
are just, in other words, what we hear on the news, and we
Okay.
hear terms like West Bank. For years, I wasn't really sure what West Bank referred to, and then when I learned, it's like, oh, okay. And so that was helpful, Mary Beth, thank you. That Judea, Samaria, and yet it's been created for that it's now this West Bank. I'm sure you all have heard of the three territories, the A territories, B territories, C territories. Coming down here, you saw the big red warning signs, don't go past here, do so at your own risk. But some of those things are going to be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, when someone says a settlement, immediately it thinks about Israeli settlements, and not necessarily on the Palestinian towns, which are also settlements. But settlements are usually in the mind of people are Israeli settlements. Actually, we just do what God told us to do, go and settle the land. So we are settlers, settling in the land. Judea and Samaria, that's a small piece of land, okay, because it's like 27 or 30% of the state of Israel today. That was were liberated in 1967 after having 19 years of Jordanians controlling the land. It's kind of ridiculous. You know what's ridiculous? It's kind of funny. Today when we speak in politics, we speak in politics 48 to 67, okay? The Israelis conquered the land from who? From the Jordanians that even before invaded in and took over the land. But when you measure in the past 2,000 years, suddenly you see a completely different picture. So today everything that you know is only short, and everything is right, by the way, in the mind of most people. It's only what happened in the past 70 years. And immediately after 1967, people, Jews, felt that this is the time to go back to the place that was given to us, to make sure that no one's going to take it again. Okay, and second of all, to develop the land. I think that it's a command, not only for the Jews, for the Muslims and for the Christians, to come and share our bliss with anyone. Why not? You guys have no idea how rich Israel is. The problem is that most of the finance going to defense, okay, and education, but mainly to defense. You know what could we do with the money? Sharing it with our neighbors, sharing the knowledge with our neighbors, improving their lives. And there is no people in the Middle East that having such a good life like the Palestinians and the Israeli Arabs. Look at those houses, and buildings and so, and there is electricity and there is water that no one pays the bill, by the way. It's also a nice part. I'm sorry that I'm going to different directions, but like once in America, I came to speak somewhere, and someone said to me, but you're the Israelis swimming in your private pools when the Palestinians having no water to drink.
There you go. That's what's communicated.
That's what communicates. First of all, it's kind of funny. An average Palestinian consume more water than an average Israeli, and it's not that they consume it, it's just inefficient consuming. Okay, like the way that they're irrigating their fields, not using dripping irrigation systems, or if there is a leak, they won't fix it because no one pays the bill, so who cares? See what I'm saying? You know why we swim in swimming pools and why they have water? Because 15 years ago in Israel we understood that there is a water crisis, and we began to develop like a water market. And today we're the only country in the world, I shared it with my boss, that having no water issues. Okay, there is 5 desalination plants. on the shore, 4 of them on the shore, 1 in Eilat, that producing water from the sea, reverse osmosis, okay? You know how expensive it is? Who pay the bills? Us. So if I want to pay for a swimming pool, let me have a swimming pool. Seriously. Simple as that. 86% of our water being reclaimed. Anytime you guys flushing down the toilets, the water going to a facility, and they're going to treat the water, they're going to clean the water, and it goes back to farms. People could drink the water, and I'm guessing that in the future people will drink the water. But right now there is some kind of a psychological barrier.
You think? You think?
So you see what happened also with electricity. What would happen to you if you guys won't pay your electrical bill? Shut off the power overnight. You guys want to hear 2 funny facts? Funny fact number 1. The Palestinians, so Israel over in the West Bank, I'm not sure what's the Ron maybe knows. What's the death? The death, כאילו החוב של החשמל.
של הפלסטינאים?
כן.
זה more than $1 billion shekels.
Like billions.
It's hundreds of millions of dollars.
It's billions.
Of what?
Of shekels. Of shekels.
For what?
All,
Shekels.
all money to the state of Israel for electricity.
in debt.
In debt. I think,
And all Gaza is supplied with electricity.
The Gaza, it's the second funny part, okay? But Gaza, it's a sad story that, and we need to pray for those people over there. We provide electricity, okay? And you know what they do? They shoot rockets over the wires to stop the supply. Now, you know why is that? Not because they're trying to harm us. They're trying to be bad to their own people. And so it's sad. It happens all the time.
They're trying to be bad to their own
To
people.
their own people. You know why?
Make you look bad.
To make us look bad, exactly.
Don't miss that. Don't miss what he's talking about
But
now.
there is another reason, you guys. One other reason, look, over there in Gaza, it's really, really sad. But the leaders over there wants to make sure that the people are fully depend on them, on the leaders, and then they'll do whatever they say, tell them to do. So that's what happens over there. But there is a tragedy over there. You guys, like seriously, like there is people without food, without clean water, that's suffering on a daily basis. We cannot ignore that. We need to find a way to how to help those people. Even when there is like conflicts between Israel and Palestinians, you guys, every person that dies is a living creature. You know, we cannot say, that's the enemy. Are you kidding me? Kids dying?
Little kids,
That's-
little
it's
girls,
the enemy?
papas and mamas. 2 million of them over there.
Yeah, we need to show our grace. We need to show like how much we love them. We need to find a way how to solve this conflict. We need to find a way how to live together. And like the Bible commands us in a very specific way. You have to be good to the nations that live in among you. Okay, we have to be good to those people. And if to be honest with you, that's the truth. Sometimes we don't do it in the best way. The state of Israel sometimes doing like terrible mistakes, stupid mistakes, and that's including the way that we're dealing with those people. But keep in mind, we're a young country, okay, and we're learning from everything. For 2,000 years, people controlled us. Suddenly, we have an independence. You need to learn. You know, it's a baby that learns how to walk. So yes, we're doing some mistakes, but it's not the mistakes that magnitude to like a huge kind of size, and then you'll watch it on TV. You see, we're doing great projects over here, and we're providing the places for them to work. We're providing hope for them, tourism. We're doing a lot of good stuff. So I think that we need to find a way to live together, but the way of fully separates, okay, won't work. It just brings more suffer to the area. Anytime we give in back land, shows the opposite.
Yeah.
And Gaza, it's the best example, but I'm feeling very uncomfortable to talk about that right over here. I would prefer to do it in a different place where it's much more relevant. But you guys understood the picture, okay? Because the last thing that I need right now is having someone come and argue with me that I'm bad, and because I know that I'm good.
I was going to shout some things here to the group, but maybe I'll stop right now. Maybe I won't do that, but we'll talk sometime a little bit more.
Yeah, we will talk about it because it's crucial to understand it. It's crucial to understand.
Yeah. Here's one of the things you can do. If you haven't looked at your Israel 101 magazine that we gave you, that's very, very helpful to discover and to learn the history of the land and the partitions and the development. So if you haven't looked at that, you don't necessarily read the whole book, although that would be great, but that will be helpful in terms of the things we're trying to talk about now. Okay? Yeah.
We're in the shepherd fields, the traditional shepherd fields. Look, the shepherd fields back then, like if you guys would go back in time 2,000 years ago, before the birth of Jesus, and stop any one of those Judeans that lived out there, the Jews, asking them, where is the shepherd fields? And they would send you to the next ridge and to this valley and the next valley. The shepherd field, it's a very large area. But suddenly the angel shows up and the shepherds are here, okay? According to the tradition, it's happened over here, and suddenly we're secluding one small part of the shepherd fields to be the shepherd fields. You guys are with me? Mm-hmm. You're in a desert right now. Where is the desert? Look around you. It doesn't look like a desert, huh? So I promised to say something on the bus, and if it's okay with you guys, I'll say it right now. Israel, it's a unique country in which sense? So this region, it's in specific very unique. See the mountain range up there? On the other side, there is a drop down of about, from Bethlehem, it's probably 3,000 feet to the sea level. So those mountains are high enough and close enough to the sea. Maybe if those mountains were a bit further away from the sea, it wouldn't be this phenomena. But maybe the distance from the sea and the way that clouds condense in this country, forcing most of the clouds to bring the rain to the other side of the mountains. And on the far end of the mountains, the other side of the mountains, there is more rainfall in London in a very short time. You're crossing over the mountain, okay? Suddenly there is barely any rain, but there is enough rain for the plants, the desert plants, to grow, and other plants. Now, in Hebrew, there is 5 different ways to describe desert. In English, only 2 ways: desert, wilderness. But every description, it's a different type of desert. In the worst category, okay, it's tsaya. Nothing can live in tsaya. No human beings, maybe animals, okay, maybe gazelles or something, because they don't need any water. They're taking it from plants. But midbar, the desert, okay, it's a place for people to live. Actually, say after me, midbar. Midbar. Okay, midbar in Hebrew, okay, means to feed. Lehadbir means to feed. Actually, it's funny. You'll stop many Israelis on the street. They have no clue. You know why? Because that's biblical Hebrew, and we didn't use the language for 2,000 years. You know, people barely spoke Hebrew, and only 150 years ago, someone woke up and said something very bold. Let's make it a daily life language that no one knew how to speak. Seriously, they used the Bible to understand the contents. But Hebrew wasn't in use for 2,000 years. The only language that people revived. Okay, that's amazing, huh? Language is dying. Hebrew revived. So anyhow, lehadbir means to feed something. Now, any one of you know what's the name of the 5th book in the Torah? Deuteronomy, very good. How do you say Deuteronomy in Hebrew?
Deuteronomy.
Very good. No, actually, you say Devarim. Say Devarim and say Midbar. It sounds the same, no? Like on your tongue, Dvarim, Midbar. Every Hebrew word having a root. And out of the root, if you go out of the root, you can use it in many tense, many times, okay, or as verbs, and so on. So you just need to know the root, okay? And davar, midbar, davar, devarim. In Hebrew Bible, every book of the Torah begins with the first or second word. Okay, so Genesis begins with Bereshit, and that's Bereshit, Bamidbar, and so on. Bamidbar, it's another book of the books of the Torah, but Devarim, okay, it's Deuteronomy, and why is that? Because the book begins with those are the words that God spoke to Moses, and in Hebrew, Elu em advarim. So Davar, Devarim, in the 5th book of the Torah, means the word, okay, the words that God spoke to the people of Israel. Okay, you guys are good so far? Who spoke to Moses?
מעולה, זה מה שאמרתי באוטובוס.
Okay. You guys heard it before?
A bit, in my bus, maybe.
Okay, so to continue.
לא, לגמרי.
Okay, so those are the words that Moses spoke to the people, but who spoke to Moses? God spoke to Moses. Actually, only in our generation, you can start to understand how God exactly spoke to Moses. God didn't speak to Moses in the way that you think. A little bit he spoke to him in different times, in the way that I'm speaking to you. But you know how you're going to go back home and you're going to take your pictures, okay, or anything that you wrote to yourself, and you're going to upload it to your computer? You guys, I'm not sure if you're aware, you know what if you're going to print those pictures, you know what's the amount of space, how big is the volume that it's going to catch? It's unreal, huh? But in 2 seconds, you can upload stuff that it took 100 years, 50 years ago to a person to write. You see what I'm saying? So God actually uploaded the information into Moses' brain. You guys, how can you give like 5 books verbally and Moses remember everything? Okay? In some sense, God spoke and fed Moses with his words. You guys are good so far? Are you okay, Pastor?
Good.
To continue on?
Yep, go.
Okay, there is another step over here. So, Hadbir Midbar is to feed, but Davar is to speak to someone. Now, I think that's the punch. You guys, how does the book of John begins?
Beginning was the word.
Continue on.
The word was with God.
And
Was God.
the Word was with God, and the Word was God. You know how it goes in Hebrew? Bereshit, Genesis, like the beginning. Aya davar. Okay, again davar. You guys are with me? So we have midbar, to feed. We have leadbir, to feed again. We have devarim, to speak. And suddenly it goes back to the core that was with God and was God. And that's the word. Now what is this word? You guys, there is food for the flesh, but there is food for the spirit and the soul. And that's exactly that, you guys. God feeds you with the Spirit. And the Holy Spirit spoke to me. What's that? You were fed by the Holy Spirit. In Hebrew we'll say, Ruach HaKodesh dibra, davar elai. You see what I'm saying? So it all comes together. What is to do to the shepherd fields? Every beginning of winter, the shepherds used to move away from the west side of Judea, crossing the mountains, sitting over here when everything is dry, and they waited for the first rain to come. Okay? It doesn't rain a lot over here, but it rains enough to see what you see around you. A lot of plants, a lot of food. So the shepherds spending their time over here in those fields. Those are the first crops as well in the winter. Ruth came to the city of Bethlehem. You guys are standing, and I wouldn't be surprised if to imagine or to know that maybe the fields that Ruth came to meet Boaz were down here. Later on, her great-grandson, the troublemaker, you guys, every kid today have HDD or something? Yeah? Back then only the shepherds, you know. Anyone that couldn't sit, go and be shepherd, go out, come back in a week, okay? So David, the great-grandson of Ruth, with his flock, coming from his house up there on top of the hill, came down and fed his sheep in the desert and goats. Actually, it's funny. Later on, we'll be in the Elah Valley. And I know that David killed Goliath in this time of the year. How do I know? Okay, who can answer? Big prize. Kiss from Ron.
Because he was on the correct side of the mountains.
No. Actually, the Elah Valley is behind the mountain. So how come it's this time of the year? First of all, back then there is no wars in winters, okay? In the winter, they wait until the end of the winter. Second of all, when he came to his brothers asking him, Al min tashtayt me'at hatzon bamidbar. Who did you leave the flock in the desert with? That's what the Bible says, okay? When do you need to leave the flock in the desert? In this time of the year when there is a lot of food. Why do you need to be now over here? You guys, in 3 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now, there is a super important holiday, a feast of the Jews. And hundreds of thousands of people will need to sacrifice something. Would you take a second-class goat to God? Or are you going to find the best ones? The ones that ate all winter and are fed like I'm not sure what, okay? So what do? You look for the best ones. And that's where you find the best ones, because that's where you find food. Actually, more than that. Saul chasing David. Where at? In the Judean desert, okay? And David and Saul are both shepherds. Back then, a shepherd could smell the grass and tell you David was here, okay? They're like the Indian Americans. You see what I'm saying? So David is always one step in front of Saul. How come? Both shepherds. Because Saul is from the tribe of Benjamin. He was a shepherd in Benjamin. David was here, so he knew where to run. David spent a big portion of his life over here in this place, you guys, for days and days and days. Actually, Samuel arrives over to find a new king to Israel. All of the brothers are there. Don't you have other kids? Where is the little one? The dude is in the desert or something. The Bible doesn't say that, but I'm guessing. Okay, he was here for days as kids. And in Jesus' time, again, the shepherds are here. Now, there is a lot of caves all around, okay? And why is that? There's a lot of predators. And overnight, okay, the shepherds needed to protect the flock. Actually, there is a word in Hebrew, it's called Migdal Adar. And Migdal Adar, it's a tower for your flock. Shepherds used to take heavy rocks. They used to build a circled kind of tower with a very narrow gate. The goats and the sheep used to spend the night inside this narrow space, and the shepherd used to sleep on top of the tower, okay? So that's something that maybe we'll see later on. Right now over here there is many caves. This is the place that the shepherd were in, according to the tradition, when the angel came to them. Actually, just think about it. Why shepherds? Those people are on the move. They're moving from place to place. They can spread the good news, okay? It's making a lot of sense. So they're going to tell it to a lawyer up there. Oh, the guy sits in an office, okay? And that's what happened. I was speaking about David, and I'm going to pass the microphone to Pastor Bill, because someone needs to, or one of you that can speak about the event, having the kind of the angel comes to the shepherds. But I want to finish with something amazing about David, okay? You know, David stands in front of Saul. Later on, we'll read it. And he says to him, you know, your servant already killed the lion and the bear. And there is lions and bears in this country. Bears until 1906.
1917.
1917.
And
only 1906 now.
And lions, the last ones in the Crusaders' time. They were killed only 800 years ago. Until the 12th century, there were lions in these areas.
The lions in these areas, there is leopards in this area. In the 60s, one was killed in the Galilee. So you need to be careful with the flag. But why do I admire David? Because he had a special heart. You know, he says to Saul, you know, when the lion took one of my lambs from my flock, I went after him and I rescued the lamb from his mouth. Okay, I didn't kill him yet. Okay, and only when the lion showed aggression against me, only then I striked him. You guys, David risks his own life to take the lamb out of the lion's mouth. David is a human being. He knew that a lion cannot survive without hunting, but go and hunt someone else's flock, not mine, okay? And he took it out. He didn't touch the lion, but only when the lion showed aggression against him, only then he killed him. Look, like such a special heart, such a special person, and it all happened around you. Yesterday on the bus, we read from the book of Micah, chapter 5, verse 2. If anyone have a Bible with them, we can read it from the Bible. And if not, I have it on my phone. יש לך את זה?
כן, אני אמצא את זה. מיכה?
Micah, chapter 5, verse 2. But someone needs to speak.
Pastor
over here.
Dan, do you have
Pastor Dan.
the Luke chapter 2